I think we're going. Here we are. We're live, guys. Don't you guys love that little intro? People say, Ted, I could hear you talking. Yep, you could. It's Ted Bogert. We're back with the Ted Show. Super excited to have this amazing human being on the show, Eric Wilson with Hearts, Hands, and Hope. We're going to talk about that organization being the change you seek in the world, how to do that, and all sorts of things that are going on in the nonprofit world, but also most importantly, in our backyard, in our communities. And Eric's got his finger on the pulse of that. So welcome back, Eric. How you doing, buddy?
It's been a year. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Who could believe it? And so much has changed in a year, hasn't it?
Let's put a little frame of mind. I was on your show about a year and 4 months ago. And that's important because a year ago, everybody was freaking out. But a year and 4 months ago, it was December. We were happy. We were, celebratory. We had, hope of a new future. None of this, COVID-19 was over there, right? And then 3 months later, the world stopped. It stopped. The president told us to stay home, right? Stay home.
Never in my lifetime had that happen.
Never. And so can't explain the toilet paper thing. Don't understand it. I can
still to this day don't understand. What's up, Greg Flower? I don't get that one iota.
Why could I find all the liquor I wanted yet couldn't do anything?
All right, you're talking to the wrong person on that. I got priorities. So, but I agree. You could find all these, to me, non-essential things, and then you couldn't. People were going nuts. I remember being panicked because of that overall. Not even COVID at the time. It was the no toilet paper.
It was okay. So let's start from there. So there was that feeling of what can we do? And the world stepped up. They really did. The entire communities everywhere, they started introducing themselves to their neighbors. In my community, I had neighbors just a couple blocks down that just moved in. I didn't know, right? And now we're helping them and we're helping them. And Michelle and I, who founded Hearts, Hands, and Hope, said, we should do something more. We should have a measurable metric. And I call that impact. And I said, how can we increase our impact? Our impact, therefore, was going to be something. And we decided our impact is going to be very specific. It's going to be we feed hungry children, right?
Perfect.
Because the children didn't choose to be children. They didn't choose their situation, whether it's born in luxury, middle class, or poverty. Children did not choose that. Adults, however, have made their choices and corrected them, not corrected them. I wasn't going to focus on that. That wasn't going to be the impact that Hearts, Hands, and Hope was going to make. We were going to make an impact on the bellies of children. Because when a child is hungry, they compromise themselves. And I'm talking anywhere from 21 to 0. Then we had to kind of like make it more school age and get more focused. But once we became focused in March, a year ago, there was, the toilet paper pandemic, there was that pandemic and this pandemic. But the underlying pandemic, as a visionary, the meteorologist inside of me, it was like, okay, this is happening now. What's going to happen 2 years from now? What's going to happen to the market when nobody's working? What's going to happen? Where's the commerce? How is this going to change how we live our lives? We order food from Publix.
So much has changed, right? I mean,
I used to think that was
what
lazy.
I remember the most from our conversations around that beginning time was that with your specific mission in place, then you had schools shut down. And so a lot of those kids got fed at school. That was gone, or at least temporarily, long enough for it to be a very big, giant concern. And so you had a whole new world to try to maneuver through to get to more people, because now the demand was even higher than it was prior, I imagine.
10 times higher.
Crazy.
10 times. So we decided to do a car line. And we partnered with Second Harvest Food Bank, who got grants from the administration at the time, emergency grants. And that allowed Second Harvest to purchase more from the growers. But Second Harvest, who I love, Greg Higgerson, and I love Lynette Jarvis, and I love everybody there. I just couldn't do anything without them. However, they love us right back, because there are 550 people like us that we're called independent food distributors. We distribute the food from Second Harvest to the need, right? Without these 550 independent food distributors, the food stays in Second Harvest. And that's not just Second Harvest. All over Florida, there's Feeding America.
Yeah.
On the East Coast, everybody's got their niche, but Second Harvest is Central Florida. And so we became Seminole County, and we went into what's called the desert areas of Seminole County, where kids were bused, they biked, or they walked to school to get their food because they hadn't eaten since Friday. That was the old pandemic. That was the old impact that we were making. Weekends, long holiday breaks, and summer. Now we've got nobody working. Everyone's at home. Nobody knows, nobody's getting paid. Everybody's on furlough. Do I have a job? Do I not have a job? Meanwhile, time is ticking. A day goes by. 2 days go by. We have to feed these people. So it became, okay, we're going to feed the children, but if their parents are hungry too, they should get a box of food as well. So
you just expanded your entire universe. Well, isn't that what being philanthropic's all about? If you have to shift because the need is so overwhelming, but that doesn't mean it wasn't hard for you. I want to go back really quick before you get into detail. I think it's so important to point out that there are 550 food distribution channels, 550 just here, right? Just
right in Orange County.
Insane amount of demand for that. That's huge.
Okay. So we went from being nobody, right? Out of 550. We weren't even a blip on the map when you and I were celebrating last time. We were in a really jovial mood, having a good time talking about what I used to do as a meteorologist, and now I'm trying this thing. And, I think I'll never remember the quote. I'll always remember the quote where you said, and everyone said, "That's a great idea, Eric." And they came on board, and and I went, no.
That's not the story.
That's not the story. So out of the 550, when it comes to Seminole County, we're the #1 distributor.
Wow. Independent
food distributor. We distribute 7,000 meals a week. 7,000 meals a week. Here's some numbers for you. An average meal costs $3.48, according to feedingamerica.com, right? And if you're hungry, you probably have less than $5 in your pocket for your family, right? Because you're not working, you're hungry, you got 2 or 3 kids. What are you going to do when one meal costs $3.58? When was the last time you went anywhere and paid $3.48 and tipped the waiter, right? You didn't, right? So I felt we had a good, stable platform where you could sponsor a child for $25 a week, just one child, and give them 7 breakfasts, 7 lunches, all prepared by chefs and all delivered to a single location. Well, when the word got out, the car line was back around. We needed sheriffs to divert. You remember the car lines in the early 80s?
I do, very, very well. Very well.
Yeah. And it just seemed like we were on to something. And so we spread to Goldsboro. We spread to parts of Lake Mary. We spread to Altamont Springs. We spread to Oviedo. It was like, we were on fire.
How was that like from a manning it? Do we say manning anymore? From staffing it. What was that like? Were you having a hard time?
It was neat.
It was all you, brother, all you.
No, because the entire board's going to watch this show, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for that.
You meant well, guys. You meant well.
We could not survive without our volunteers. The Midway Coalition, for example, every week for the last 54 weeks in a row, through Thanksgiving, through Christmas, through all the holidays, once things started to get semi back to normal and we're all wearing masks, they show up every week to pass out over 7,000 meals every Thursday to just one location. And we run out. And it's hard.
Let's talk about that, because 7,000 meals, guys. I really just want to, when you say numbers, those are the kind of things when I hear stuff like that, I'm just in awe. And then I'm also like, how in God's name did you all pull that off or do it? So tell us what that looks like because it's not just, you guys have to work with chefs. You have to make sure it's boxed properly, bagged properly, compliant, COVID compliant. Everybody's like, it's not just a here's your box for breakfast this morning. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it just to get the food to them, right?
So it starts with the growers, and the grant that Second Harvest used paid for the chefs and all the volunteers to package all the food early in the morning, like from 2 to 4 in the morning. Then the drivers, who were all on rent, the transportation, they cost money. Sure. Show up at 6 or 7 and they load up the trucks, 150 boxes per pallet. So we would get, 6 or 7 pallets at our Midway location, for example. And I'm just using that one as an example. And so here comes prepackaged food that has to be temperature controlled, which was really hard during the summer. Sure. and the thunderstorms, because we didn't have, any way to, we bought a whole bunch of tents later. And I mean, it was just, we're standing there in the pouring rain and handing these people that are starving. And just to answer your question, it goes from the growers get paid by the government through the grants from Second Harvest. Second Harvest then, in-kind donation, gives us thousands of dollars worth of food each week. So if a meal costs $3.48, we get it for, if we had to pay entirely for it, it would be $1.72 per meal times 7,000 per week. So here's some more numbers for you. We have distributed since this week, last year, 329,993 meals. The year prior to that, we distributed 4,900 meals. And that
holy moly. Yeah. So how does that work from an Eric perspective? Because I'm going to ask that question. I have to. I really want people to see the human side of this. And they're seeing it on the delivery of it, and they know that you are doing amazing work. But there's also humans behind this that are constantly in the throes of it, like Eric and his team are, Eric and his wife are. And so where does that energy come from? Did you have moments during that where you're like, I don't know how we're going to do it? Yeah. And how has that changed since for 2021?
That's really a great question. Last year, we were just playing catch up. We were like, there's more need. Okay. We called Second Harvest. They had the grant. We went to there. We'd call some volunteers. We'd get it organized. We'd rush, get the tent. It just seemed we weren't spending enough time on infrastructure, committees, volunteer coordinators, stuff like that. It was just like, it was reactionary towards Q3. Towards Q4, it became clear to me, I can't keep doing this. Okay.
Finally, it dawned on you, right?
Yes. Well, it's just my heart was in it. I mean, when you hand the food to the kid doesn't care about my problems. Oh. He's just hungry. And the families are so
starving. They're really hungry, guys. This isn't a pretend thing. No. These kids are hungry and won't get it if they're not given it.
Right. And we're not enabling either. That was my fear, is that when does this cross that line of now we're enabling people not to work and get out of their situation? So we joined places out of LA and Atlanta called Step Up on Second Harvest, or Step Up on Second. I'll say that slower. Step up on Second.
It's tough.
Yes. And they're more transitionary. They're like, we'll give you low rent housing. You can stay here as long as you're employed, but we're going to keep working on your case until you get on your own. And I felt like this was the direction that we needed to keep going, keep doing what we're doing for the desert areas, but let's start moving into a more productive focus where our impact can still be measured in food, right? You got to have that metric. But the impact is going towards a cause that has already been figured out. I didn't have to figure that out. They did it in LA. They branched out in Atlanta. And then they had their first opening here down in Sanford. So to answer your question about what's it like for me, that was a big relief on the inside in my heart, because I didn't want to enable these families. Uh-oh, that's a robocall. Sorry.
All right, we didn't have a dog barking. You had one earlier. I
had one earlier. That's right. So the fear going into 2021 that we talked about prior to the show is that the grants are coming up due. They're going to be done in June. So
okay, so the grants, explain that. So the grants end. There's an ending point, guys, for a grant. You have to usually apply for it yearly, or there's some sort of time frame. Sometimes it goes longer. So on the grant, yes, it sounds great to get it, but you a lot of times have to reapply for it every year.
Every year, and there's all of our Q1 donors from years past have pushed all of their applications to Q4. So that was a surprise. I was like, okay, so we're talking about 9 months of not even applying and then waiting for the grant to get approved. Wow. So all of our old methods of sustaining our overhead, which as a caveat, to become a independent food distributor, we had to get a facility. We had to get trained. We had to pay all the licenses that any company pays. Before that, we were working out of our homes and a storage unit, right? We would have food drives. We'd pack on a second day, delivered it on Fridays to all the schools. The whole thing changed with COVID. You've got immediate food. It's immediately packed. It's ready. It's in-kind donation. We did over $500,000 of in-kind donations last year. Well, what do? I've got to raise $500,000 just to repeat that, or it stops. And that's where I said I was a little afraid, this morning, is that we're doing everything we can as a group, as a board, and our wonderful volunteers to really ask a very tired group of people, of donors, right? Kind of like, hey, we gave it the office, right? We gave it to 2020. We're good for the decade. Right. And it's like, is this going to go away? I hope. So what's the
plan? Because I know I've been there. I think we've talked about it. My master's degree it's got to focus somewhere in it on nonprofit. So I've worked in the nonprofit sector for a long time. I think one of the biggest scary things always is, am I going to have the funding? And what happens when government red tape holds it up, or your donors get tired, which we all have been for the last year? How do you find new resources and re-energize the community? Because the impact you're making on the community is it's short-term, but the long-term implications are overwhelming. These kids won't be hungry. They will still be able to learn. There's so much that goes along with feeding children and how starving children just can't function, and it has long-term impact on them as adults. So what can we do as a community to embrace you?
Well, we started with an idea. Why don't we start having coordinated events where people have fun? Like we got with Eric Duchesne at Lake Mary Top Golf. Nice. And because Top Golf is very popular in Orlando, but since we're Seminole County based and we want to grow into Volusia, Brevard, Orlando's really taken care of when it comes to the nonprofit dollar. Like there was $1, there's out of the 550, 500 of them are pretty much centered around Orlando.
Right.
The scattered ones, the rest of us that make up that 550 are Seminole, Lake County, Volusia County, and Brevard County. And if we don't take care of ourselves and we don't make it fun, now. This was my approach. I'm like, we have to throw a party and then make some money at the end of it. So Eric Duchesne and at Top Golf and Courtney Fleming came together at a county meeting, and they stepped up and they said, we'll help you throw a fundraiser. Nice. And so we've got one coming up on March 16th. I'll talk more about in a little bit.
May 16th?
May 16th. I said March.
It's all right. Listen, I had to look down to make sure we had passed March 16th.
Like, wait a minute. Yeah, it was a great event. I don't even remember it.
I lost a week somewhere. I don't know what's going on.
The booze must have been really good.
Woo, I'll tell you.
Oh, and so the question, to answer the question, you have to pivot. You have to keep on the nonprofit, okay, masters, right? Is that if you aren't able to pick up your board when the wave ends and go back out into the ocean and find a new wave, then you're not going to make it. It's not a cash cow. You can't sit back. You can't rely on, don't lean. I call it leaning. You have to constantly be generating fun ways for people who want to get out of the house. That was number one. So where do they want to go? What do they want to do? That was number two. And how can we make donating a fun thing rather than a, I already gave, I already donated. I'm already giving $25 a month. Oh,
so Top Golf. Okay, it just dawned on me. Top Golf is the golf tournament.
Yes,
that you're talking about for May. I love this. Okay, I've done a bunch.
You don't even have to golf. You can just sit back and have free drinks. And there's toss across. There's live music. We've rented out the entire bottom floor.
No way.
Tickets are only $125. That covers your food, your drink, appetizers. Sponsor levels are really low. To be an event sponsor at this event is only $10,000. Now that feeds folks for a week, but the way we're pivoting is that if we can get these grants coming in, then we can pay the facility. See, our costs now, which we didn't have before, are a fraction of, where most of the money goes, right? So out of $2, $1.72 goes from the truck into the car, into the kid. Wow. So that leaves how much?
28 cents.
28 cents for overhead.
Wow.
We didn't have that kind of overhead before. Right. So where it takes us, we have staff. This is my job now, but I've decided not to take any money until we can get above a certain level. That takes a hit on us,
Oh my God, it takes a huge hit on you.
Yeah, because it's like, where's the revenue going to come from? Because I stopped working all my jobs to do this. And then I was doing all that. And like you said, in Q4, it dawned on me, I need some help. And then you get a lot of people that want to help you for $20,000 a year. And you're like, okay, now we need to really rethink our budget and fill out the long form 990s and join the NPO Connects. And you understand what this means. And I don't talk over people's heads. But what this means is that the more credible you seem, the more someone can do research on you on other sites that are vetted, that have vetted you and cross-checked you to say, yeah, they did do $500,000 worth of food last year. Right. And, the year before that, they only did 20,000 years. That jump would probably say, cause a visit from the IRS. Going, what are you doing? And it's like, we just used the money, the emergency funds. Here's the other thing about grants. The emergency grants were issued immediately. Right. When the president said stay home, the emergency grants came in a couple of weeks for the food.
Correct.
I'm not talking about stimulus package or any stuff like that.
For the food, the emergency food.
Just the emergency, they call EM packets, EM food packets. And so when those numbers started growing for us, it was all about coordinating volunteers, getting a facility, getting it licensed, getting it inspected, having the fire chief come by, all of that.
It's very all encompassing, and I think that you make it so many nonprofits make it seem like it's seamless. And what people need to understand is that there is so much volunteer time, even by Eric coming on as the figurehead. It's all volunteer. The organizations volunteer. And so it is good to eventually get to a part where you can have a paid administration person or some paid help, because that keeps the consistency going. Trust me, I get all those things that you're doing. You guys have done an amazing job.
Thanks, Ted. And you understand that it's good to have staff. I didn't. In the beginning, I thought having staff was a bad thing. I thought if we could just have this all volunteer, this is 2016, if we could just all have no overhead and do it out of our homes, and I thought that was a good thing. And did you know Publix refused to give us money for 3 years in a row, and we're still waiting to apply this year, because we didn't have any staff in place, we didn't have any structure, we didn't have any budget, we didn't spend any time talking about our metrics. And
most grants back in the old days, you had to have some sort of paid out of it. Now there was a cap as to how much percentage of the overall money they were giving you, but yes, it adds this not really credibility but sustainability. Okay, they've got somebody, they've got enough money to support a staff. They must be good with business. It's just I used to review grants as well, so it's just a crazy thought process on it. But it's important. But you don't think that. You think, oh, everybody will donate if it's 100%. Nobody's making any money, and that's not really how grants work or were set up to work. All right, I hate to cut us short, but we're out of time. Okay. What do you have to share? How can they get? I've got the website going across the bottom. Okay. We know May 16th is the date, so we want people to reach out. Book, get involved, sponsor. How can they give back to you?
Okay, so on our website, on the home page, there's the donate. You can donate however much you want. Then there, right below it, is our event. And there's 2 ways you can participate. You can be a sponsor, and there's 6 different sponsors that you could choose from. You can also buy tickets. We have 100 people we're planning on coming to this event. If 100 people paid for this event, we've covered the cost for the event, and then whoever pays after that goes to the kids. So our biggest thing right now is to keep doing what we're doing, keep showing up for these kids every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, keep being consistent. And I'll end with this, because our target audience is food insecure people. Children who don't know where their next meal is coming from. We've been a reliable source for more than 54 weeks in a row. And for us to keep that going, all we need is for someone to say, you know what, for the price of a meal for my family, I'm going to sponsor our whole family for a month. And that's what we really need, is that monthly reoccurring income so that we can pay our expenses and go get the grants and all of that. So that's
we want to embrace you. All right, the website's going across the bottom. Guys, you get involved. This is such an amazing organization. Think of all the people in reality that you saved during those times where they had didn't know where else to go. And it makes an impact on all of us when our kids are hungry. I'm just telling you, it's epidemic. And places like Eric, this organization is amazing. And just because I had somebody ask me, they looked you up, just because Seminole County in your mind is the richest county on the planet, that is not necessarily the case when it comes to starving children, hungry children. So please don't let that stop you from donating and getting involved.
I'll leave you with one last heart-pulling moment. As kids went back to school, they found in Seminole County that the kids sitting next to them had been evicted from their homes. Ugh. They were made fun of at lunchtime because they wanted 2 pizzas instead of 1 pizza. The new pandemic is the hunger pandemic. Yeah. And it's coming, and we're the solution. So thank you, Ted, for having us again on your show.
I appreciate you. I think the world of you. You're amazing. What all of you do, you, your wife, the entire team. Thank you. Thank you. It is just check him out. Come talk to me. I will tell you everything's there. Get involved, guys. It's so critical. And just because you're getting back into the normal doesn't mean nonprofits do not still have record numbers that they are trying to get their services to, including feeding our kids. Thank you, Eric, so much for all you do, my friend.
Thank you as well, Ted. Thanks
all
for
right,
having
guys,
me.
we'll see you back. Reach out to Eric Wilson